So if you pick an industry that's going down or not going so well, it's not going to end up going well for me. So my industry is the affordable housing.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, I'm excited to have Charlotte Dunford. Charlotte, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you very much. Charlotte is the managing partner of Johns Creek Capital, which is an investment management company that focuses on mobile home park investments with a total investor subscription of over $4.2 million. Numbers wise, they currently have 20 mobile home park investments. And Charlotte herself has also created over $500,000 in asset value in the past 12 months. And Charlotte, I'll let you explain a little bit more about your background, but why don't we dive in actually to your background, to your beginnings, because I think that's pretty cool. You didn't come from here, and so let's dive in. Let's tell our listeners little bit more about yourself, and then we'll talk about kind of what you're doing today.
Right. So my name is Charlotte Dunford. Like you said, I'm a managing partner of Johns Creek Capital. Since I think last time that we communicated, we actually grew quite a bit. Right now, we have 24 mobile home parks under management and over $4.5 million in investor subscription. So this niche features value add the small mobile home park properties with higher cap rates in the 7% and above range at purchase. So, and as far as my beginnings, it's a story, but I was born and raised in China. When I was 16 years old, I came to the United States to seek better opportunities. But I did not come with my parents. I pretty much applied for a high school here in America and pretty much just hopped on the plane and came over here. I did not know anyone here in the States. I did not have any family, relatives, friends. I did not know a soul in the United States. But I do think that it is a great opportunity. And I don't see a future for myself in China. So, another thing, what led to what I'm doing today is that I've always wanted to do real estate. Another reason I wanted to come to the United States was because people are not able to own properties under the communist regime where I came from. So I decided to come here to pursue real estate, pretty much. Your opportunity has always been a fascinating idea to me. And I didn't speak any English, so I had to learn everything from scratch and pretty much build a new life. So
so you came over here from China at 16, not knowing English. You applied to a high school. I'm assuming you got in, right?
Yes, I did.
So you came and flew over here. You didn't know English. So you had to just start learning English right away when you came here? You didn't have, or were you learning it when you were over there before, like as you were prepping to come, or how did that work?
I learned a little bit, but it's as good as like taking a couple of semesters of Spanish, that kind of level. So it's not really useful when you go to a country that speaks that as a native language. So
you could say hi and goodbye. And
I want to go to the bathroom and all that good stuff. So nothing really useful, that useful. So that's my level. And when I came here, it was difficult. The first month, usually the hardest. It was hard. But because I was so young and I was 16, I was like a sponge, right? Absorbing knowledge. And I was in that environment. I wanted to go to a high school where there are not many international students, and it was as local. So I landed in this small village in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. So it's pretty much as local as it could be. And I lived with a host family, which the school found for me. I didn't know them before. So, but that really helps me. And plus my own desire to learn language, that really helped as well. Yeah.
So was it more of like a foreign exchange program, or was it how was it set up? Because you came to a host family. It sounds like a foreign exchange program.
Well, that's what a foreign exchange program would do, but there was nobody to exchange with me. It wasn't a program that's set up for, rich kids who, who
Yeah,
have, oh, I want to experience life in a different country. And it's how cool is it? No, it wasn't like that for me.
wasn't like that.
I simply had to find lodging, and that was what the school did, was to find local families,
Wow.
preferably their kids went to the same school to do this. That's pretty much about it. There's no exchange program where they take you out to do fun things. No, I went to school and I was on my own.
Yeah,
So
head down and boots on the ground, and let's
yeah,
get this done. So,
had to.
pretty amazing, especially not coming over here with coming over here without any family, without any real probably much money, and so how did you then evolve to running your own business? Let's talk a little bit of that evolution, because I think it's really
Right,
fascinating. I always find it so fascinating when somebody
right.
comes over here from a different country
Yeah.
and can create what you've created. Because man, there's so many people that here that can't create what you've created.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. I think, let's reverse engineering a little bit. So when I started Johns Creek Capital in 2020, I already had a couple properties under my belt, and that's why I was able to attract some initial investors. So let's go back to how I was able to get a couple of properties under my belt. That's through my job, my full-time job at the time. I didn't quit my full-time job yet. So I had a full-time job at the time, and I used the salary to finance my first couple of properties. So then, let's roll back and think, how the heck did I get my full-time job? That's because I graduated college and got the full-time job, and roll back, reverse engineering more. How did I get
Mm,
into college? And going back to high school, right? So I pretty much had to study as hard as I could. I was I had to study for the SATs, and granted, those are all in English and in hard English as well. And
right.
a lot of locals didn't even, know how to, do the SATs well, and the
Right.
words are hard. So I pretty much had to study as hard as I could. Math was the easy part for me. That wasn't difficult because I learned everything pretty advanced back in home in China. Is because so much competition there. Everybody studies so hard, and math is a kind of international thing. So as soon as I look at it, I usually that's the easiest part for me. But the language part was the hardest, reading and writing. So I tried as hard as I could, but I think I did my ICTs, tried a few times, finished up pretty much on the top, close to 2000 at the time. The full I think was at the 2400, but I scored like 2000. So it's not too bad for international students who's only
Right.
been here for a little bit. So I got into one of the top engineering schools here at Georgia Tech, here in the South, Georgia Institute of Technology. So I pretty much started my college career, and started as a industrial engineering major, but decided to switch to business. And then that's when I really started to learn a lot more about business, about really got myself educated in business, in the business world, and that which led to a job in Georgia as a business analyst, which really strengthened my analytical skills and data analyst skills, which were very much needed in syndications this business today. And that's pretty much what led to the first deal, second deal, and took a jump to start a business. And here I am. So
What
it
led you
took a
to?
lot longer,
Yeah,
but
yeah. You fast forwarded through a lot of stuff, I'm sure, and we'll
right.
we'll dive into some of
All
those
right.
things. But what made you say mobile home parks? Did you just kind of stumble into it, or was there an underlying reason for mobile
Mhm.
home parks?
Right. There is a pretty strong reason for it because at the time when I, started the business to quit my job to find something to get into really in real estate, I was thinking because I already was owning a single family home, a duplex. I was thinking maybe I could scale and own more duplex and maybe
Yeah.
apartment buildings. But the fact of the matter is, it was way too many people in this market and way
Hmm.
too many competitors. And the big boys have been at multifamily for decades. And for me, a 24-year-old pretty much fresh out of college, wanting to get it, it's not possible for me. The barrier of entry is way too high, way too difficult. So for me, I've always believed in blue ocean strategy, going into a space where the market is not extremely heated. Not everybody's chasing after it. And there is, it's kind of a diamond in the rough. That's kind of what I'm going for. That's kind of my philosophy. So that's why I found mobile home parks. And I determined that this is a space where it's not super competitive. It's still not super competitive. And in the 7-year real estate cycle is fairly early on. It was definitely early on when I got in, and it's still early on today. So that's why I thought this is the space I want to go into. Yeah.
What size mobile home park are you typically buying? Is there a range?
Yeah. So right now for small ones, we usually look at 50 and below.
50 and below. Okay. And are these properties, are they listed by brokers, or like, what are you doing to find these mobile home parks that 50 and below or 50 and above? Like, what are you doing to find these properties?
So brokers and sellers and the relationships we've established over the past couple of years, at this point, the deal sourcing part has developed into kind of this leads machine, getting us deals every day. So we have several different channels, brokers, sellers, relationships, and
you're going direct to seller.
Yes, sometimes, okay. And a lot of times it is broker. So yeah, there are different kinds of deals. Yeah.
Got it. And okay, so you buy a mobile home park. That it's you said it's not competitive, so we're buying this mobile home park. We're probably not having 40 people bid on it, just like you see in multifamily. What do? You get a property. What do you do to it to make it more valuable than what it's already worth? Or are you just buying these properties that are stabilized and kind of just rolling with it? Are you buying turnkey? Or are you doing specific things? And if you are doing specific things, what are you doing to add value?
Right. So the value add strategies for mobile home parks of this size usually consist of first, some cosmetic upgrades. For example, a new sign, some new fences, some new white fences to give it a little bit of a country feel, just very basic cosmetic upgrades. And you raise rent a little bit because the rents are incredibly low to start with. So the average in the Southeast is $150. In the Midwest, which will also have a pretty strong presence of, is $250 to $300. And
that's
on the West Coast,
right?
That's for the pad. Yeah. So on the West Coast, you're looking at $400 to $500. So on the East Coast is similar to the Midwest. So they're incredibly low to start with. So there's a lot of meat on the bone already. So you can raise rent a little bit, but you don't want to raise it too much per year. And another value add is the big thing is you can push back utilities and sub-meter meaning that the tenants will be paying for the utilities themselves, or you can just push back utilities, and that's just paperwork. So that way you have to pay for utilities, and that way they actually use less water if they use if they pay for their own utilities.
And they're more cautious about what they're doing.
Absolutely, they're a lot more cautious that way. And another thing which is major, it's a little more difficult, but it is a pretty major value add move. It's called infilling. Meaning that you either prep a lot to attract a tenant to move their home into your lot, or you buy a new home and bring the new home onto your lot and rent it out and make it rent to own, or somewhere along those lines. So those are pretty much the major value add approaches that we have. And obviously the repairs and maintenance and making the park look prettier, trim the trees, cut grass. That's just common maintenance. Yeah.
So if you've got a vacant lot, you're going to try to just beautify that lot up, see if you can get somebody to put a home on there. And or you're going to actually buy one yourself, it sounds like, and then you're going to maybe sell that as a sell that on like a contract or something like that.
Correct. Right. That would be another way to do it. And as far as beautifying the lot, it's really beautifying the park, so that the park is attractive. The lot prep is only just making sure the utilities are ready to be hooked up. That's the lot prep. Yeah. But yes,
Gotcha.
those are the two approaches. And the second one is a lot more difficult than the first one, but it depends, I think, on your budget.
Hey, the North Star Real Estate Conference is back. It's May 2nd and 3rd, and this year it's a bit different. We're going to be hammering in on multifamily real estate, and we're going to show you asset management, value add strategies, raising millions of dollars through syndication, and how to find those hidden gems in today's market that are just so tough to find. And one of the biggest things I'm excited to bring you is industry experts that you're going to be able to put on your team so you can hit the ground running day one. So join us May 2nd and 3rd at the North Star Real Estate Conference. I look forward to seeing you there.
So why 50 and below why is that your target versus, 50 and above versus 500 pads versus, whatever versus anything different? What is that? Is there a reason for that specific niche?
Because of higher cap rates and due to lack of competition. Again, it goes back to competition. It goes back to blue ocean strategy. It goes back to, once you get above that, everybody is going after that. So you're putting 20 bids on this one park, and you will never get a park and not at a good price anyways. And the cap rates are approaching multifamily level. So you might as well just do multifamily.
Wow. Are you, I know some people that are buying larger parks and how they're managing. How are you managing these properties? Are you able to hire third party, or do you have staff on site? How are you managing a 50, let's call it a 50 pad site or a 30 pad site or whatever?
Right. So we manage everything in-house, and we have staff within our organization to support the parks and from different perspectives. So from an operational perspective, as far as property management responsibilities, that falls on my partner, who has a very strong engineer background, and he is in charge of actually the day-to-day management of the park. And we have our staff, who is a value add coordinator, who reports to my partner. He is responsible for facilitating a lot of those activities, talking to contractors himself, and kind of a level below, what more boots on the ground and more talking to contractors himself and actually facilitating a lot of the activities. So we do have 24 different parks across 10 different states. So, and we're based in Georgia, and they're far. So the way we manage that is because we have local teams that we assemble during and post due diligence to local contractors, electricians, local city authorities, and even the good tenants in the park, to kind of being the eyes and ears of the park. So you have a localized effort. You have a local team, localized, to watch over the park and to handle immediate needs. But the headquarter is us, and we handle, all the requests and actually making the decisions. And from a compliance perspective, we have a compliance officer who's in charge of, because we operate in so many different states, and every single state has their own regulations, permitting requirements, and health department requirements. And our compliance officer is in charge of making sure all of our parks are in compliance of what the state wants, and foreign registration, and that could be in a job in itself. That's why we have staff on board to do that. And obviously the finance part of it, we also have staff to be in charge of that as well.
So it sounds like you've got a lot of different people in place. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Are you using any specific softwares that you really like, or what are you doing to manage that kind of business and set systems up? Anything in particular?
Well, for our internal team management, it's a very simple site. We use Monday.com. So okay. Yeah, so it's pretty simple. Everybody knows what everybody's doing. Obviously, you have to develop your internal processes to make sure your team knows what the heck is happening. For example, once we close a deal, we have a workflow process for a new entity. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Registering for the state requirements and opening a new account, all of that good stuff. So everybody, it should trigger all of their actions. So you want to automate as much internal processes as possible. That's the only way you can grow efficiently.
Yeah, 100%. It's something we're trying to work on, because as you get I'm sure you've dealt with this as you get certain levels, you have different growing pains, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden something you did in the past doesn't work so well. And so we're constantly trying to figure out. So some of these questions I ask are always selfish questions. I want to know what other
Oh,
people are
good.
doing so I can improve
Good.
myself, but hopefully that way the listeners also learn something, right?
Right.
But yeah, so that's great.
You got first dibs. Yeah.
Yeah, Monday.com is something we've certainly looked at. And I think, creating those systems where people can see who's doing what, and then it basically it triggers them to do something, can be
Exactly.
so valuable, because then everybody knows their place. Everybody knows how to kind of kick the ball along. Because
Right.
if one person stops and they don't kick that ball, the ball stops.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Don't drop the
So,
ball. Yeah.
yeah. And so that we need to know, okay, who's in line, who's next, and when do they go? So that's really cool.
Exactly.
Talk about a mistake that you've made. I'm sure there's been one or two. Talk about a mistake that you've made, and how have you learned from it, and what are you doing differently now?
Right. I have a book. It's not my book, but I keep track of all the mistakes I make and the lessons learned and how I do what I do to address it. And it's important as a company grows, you need to have that. So I guess let me think about one mistake I made that was worth talking about here.
You haven't made any, have you?
Oh, I made many.
Oh.
No. Anybody who says they haven't made mistakes, that you should be careful.
Yeah.
You should be careful. Either they're truthful that they haven't made any mistakes, which is really dangerous because they haven't really made any mistake. They're about to on you. So I think let's say a mistake I made, a bit major mistake I would say cost me a lot of money is when I bought my first property, a single family home in South Atlanta. This tenant screening process, I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. My first property, and I pretty much let whatever tenant who said they could pay their rent and didn't do any background check. I didn't do a credit check. I simply look at their kind of a pay stub and everything. They're fine. Big mistake. Big mistake. You have to screen your tenant, cautiously, and you need to understand how much money they're making and if they could cover the rent. So that's super important, and it ended up costing me over $10,000. And part of it I'm still chasing after, but I don't think I would never ever get that money back. So be careful with your tenants.
Probably will never see that money again.
Never. Not in this life.
Nah.
No, not in this one.
That's how it goes. That's good.
Yeah.
So somebody that is a couple years, 5 years behind you, what kind of advice would you give them if they go, wow, this is amazing. I love what Charlotte has done. What advice would you give them? How can they follow in your footsteps and do it even better?
See, my story is pretty unique. So from a strictly business perspective, not as an immigrant, not as a woman, not as anything else, but as, let's say you're strictly a businessman who wants to start a business. I would say the first thing is that you have to pick the right industry, right? So if you pick an industry that's going down or not going so well, it's not going to end up going well for me. So my industry is the affordable housing. The market is big. What you want to do is that you want to pick an industry that's going up, that's making a lot of money, that has huge potential. Eventually, you want a place in that for yourself in the market. You want a market share, right? And that market share grows as you grow. But you have to be able to get in to grab a share first, because if you are in an industry that's already extremely matured and it's extremely competitive and it's already been developed, you have no space there. So that's, I think, the first step that you have to determine for yourself, and obviously educate yourself along the way, and don't be afraid to take risks, calculated risk, and move forward. Take actions. Doing things is always better than not doing things, because through doing things, you'll learn a lot. Even the things that you do, may not lead to anything, may lead to something bad, but you have to fail forward. You have to act quickly. Right.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people who are super well educated, right? They've read all the books, they've listened to all the podcasts, they've had mentors, all that kind of stuff, but they still aren't successful. And the key ingredient that they're missing is action.
It's everything.
Don't
Action is everything.
take
There's a
action.
Chinese saying called the 纸上谈兵, which means talking about military strategy only on paper. It's not going to work.
Not gonna work.
You can be a great mastermind, putting your little toy soldiers on a piece of paper, say, hey, they're going to take this mountain right now. But if you don't put them into action, you're not going to win your enemy just by putting your toy soldiers perfectly, because that's not real. It's not reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Your enemy is not going to be very scared if you have a plan. They're not scared of your plan. They're scared of your action.
Exactly.
Implement a plan. Have a plan.
Yeah.
But
yes. Have a
you have to
plan, but
actually-
you have to do things and make moves. Yeah.
Make the move.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm sure you've had some people along the way. What are some, you don't even have to name them or necessarily, but some essential people, if you want to name that, you're more than happy. You're more than welcome to, but some essential people that have helped you along the way to get to where you've gone.
I would love to name them, but I don't know if they're comfortable to be named. But I do want to, so many people. I mean, my entire journey is because people who helped me along the way, starting from my host family, who pretty much taught me a lot of things about American culture and about everything, and all the way to my husband, who has helped me so much along the way, and my family, my husband's family. And as a girl who doesn't have any resources on this new land, it's important in life to understand people need to depend on each other to make things happen. And you don't believe, I don't believe that the success stories where people say, oh, I did it all by myself. No, you didn't. You didn't do it all by yourself. You had help from somewhere, even subconsciously you did. And our early investors who trusted in me and believed in me and was interested in my business and invested with us and helped me take this thing higher. Yes, just so many people. I think that made me who I am today. Yeah.
Is there anything that you think, this is just your opinion, right? But you talk about the early investor or investors that somehow take this leap of faith. You have really very little, right? You've done a couple deals, whatever, but all of a sudden you're trying to seek some money. Is there anything in particular that you think helped you gain that trust and get the money?
Well, I think it's always difficult to raise funds, no matter which stage you're at. It gets easier over time, but it's always difficult.
Well, but you're trying to raise more money, right? So that's what, especially,
Right. So I think what helped me was just, you need to present yourself in the best light, and you need to have some sort of experience. You couldn't be nothing. Like, you can't sit across the table from investors saying, hey, I have nothing. I don't have any real estate experience. I don't know what I'm doing, but hey, give me $1 million. That's not going to work.
Yeah. We're going to give this a shot.
No. Even angel investors don't do that.
I heard Charlotte on a podcast, and I'm excited to get this deal done. So.
Right. But, her Charlotte on the podcast, that shows that, it talks about her experience, right? So you have to have some sort of experience. At this point, we have experience. We are in the process of exiting one of our parks. So that shows a complete cycle, and that, in turn adds to the track record. So it, once you have something going for you, it becomes easier. But initially, when you have nothing, you have life experiences, don't you? I have my story. I have my, college experience. Obviously, I have a college degree, and I did own a pretty successful rental units, though not many. So I wasn't a piece of paper, white paper that has nothing on it. So I did have some experience. So I always say, start, portraying yourself in the best light and show what you can offer, and do show your experience. You need experience. It's important.
Yeah, for sure. And that actually, what you just said, that makes me think this is the same thing of trying to talk with a broker and convince the broker that you're a good buyer for that property. Because when
Right.
you're in your kind of early stages, you don't have that track. You somehow have to buy a 100-unit building, or you somehow have to buy a 50 pad mobile home park, but you didn't
Right.
it just didn't flash into your life. So you
Right.
have to convince them that you're willing and able to do it. And
Right.
that's showing your character, letting your character shine through. Like you said, we've all got experiences,
Right.
and an investor is going to trust you based on your experiences, how you hold yourself, how trustworthy you are. And same thing with the broker, same thing with the seller, and other people that are trying to do business with you, or that you're trying to do
Right.
business with.
Exactly. And it all boils down to competition again, right? So with the broker, when I started, there wasn't any competition. There was nobody else trying to outbid me. So I didn't have to present a lot of experience in mobile home park purchases. And now that it's getting more heated, and I do have that. So it's became a really good timing for me.
Certainly helpful. Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, cool. A couple last questions I want to ask you. What any like specific habits that you've created that really help propel you, help with your success?
I think number one is reading business books, learning from other people's theories, philosophies. I mean, my favorite book of all time is called From Zero to One by Peter Thiel. He is a Silicon Valley investor, co-founder of PayPal, and he is, he's a huge investor, and he one of the I think the best thing. Sorry, adjusting my clothing. One of the best things I've learned from his is that blue ocean strategy is that competition escaping. So you have to learn, and you get inspired from the books, business books and strategy books. That's, I think, one of the habits. Another habit I would do is that try to slow down once in a while and think about where you are, think about your business. Don't just get yourself into the mud and just constantly working for the business and constantly, working without thinking, because you will lose direction. That is actually a really bad thing for you, because if all you do is work and not thinking and not working on your business is not heading to a right direction. Especially if you're on top, if you're one of the managing partners, if you're the boss, you have to think about the direction overall, big picture, macro level decisions. And that requires some quiet time, some rest. Just clear your mind, sit down and rest, think about your strategy, rethink a lot of things. And instead of just working on the small tasks, that won't really be productive. Just be careful with that.
Yeah, love it. Those are great things. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and never slow down, right? I mean, there's been plenty of times where I'm just busting, and I just don't slow down. And that's when you stop growing, because you're not taking some time to reflect, to really think about what you're trying to achieve. So I love that advice. Okay. So you've mentioned a book, 0 to 1. Any other books that you want to recommend? Just maybe one more book.
That's a good question. I think another one I would say is I have a whole list of books. 0 to 1 is really my all-time favorite. And as far as another book,
is there a mobile home book?
Their mobile home, it's funny because I'm in the mobile home park industry, but I never really took any boot camps or anything like that. I learned a lot from experience. But I would say one business book, it's really old. And that's, my business partner's favorite book of all time. It's called The Art of War. So that's the best business. It's actually a business book, business strategy. That's ancient book, but it's a very very deep book. So
love it. All right. So last question before we wrap up. What are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
Right. So I think from my perspective, I think the 3 things that you need to create wealth is you have to have the drive, right? It's from kind of a mindset thing, like you said, the drive to succeed. And that requires the why behind why you're doing. Why are you trying to achieve wealth? So you have to find that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the two is how are you going to achieve that? It's kind of the why is the reason, it's your mission, and the how is kind of your tactic, right? And then the third thing you need to find out is the strategy that overrules the how. I mean, sorry. So it goes like the motivation, your drive, the motivation behind why you're trying to create wealth. You're for your family, for yourself, for your own personal freedom, for your childhood dream. Doesn't matter. You have to have that motivation. The second level is the strategy, right? So what's your strategy to do that? And then once you figure out a strategy, you figure out the tactics. The tactics serves the strategy, the steps to get there. Break it down to little chunks, little manageable chunks, and you'll get there. Take actions on those manageable chunks. So I would say those are the three levels, 3 pillars.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Well, look, Charlotte, really appreciate you spending time with us, explain a little bit about your business and what you're doing and some of the strategies, some of the things you're doing to be successful, from managing, from having, first of all, from surrounding yourself with great people, having the right people, to managing those people, to finding that growth opportunity, the thing, like you said, in the mobile home parks that has opportunity, very big need with affordable housing, opportunity for you to actually come in and buy, where every single person is not trying to do the exact same thing, and an industry that's growing or is huge right now. Very, very big need. And then, slowing yourself down to really be able to build your business, to be able to really think and reflect. Of course, talking about, taking action to get the results you're looking for. You can't get the results if you're not going to take action. And then your 3 pillars, the motivation, the strategy, and the tactics. So again, really appreciate you being on the show. How can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about what you got going on?
Right. The best way to reach me is go to our website at johnscreekcapital.com. And there is a contact form. There is a little, get in touch tab, and just go ahead and click on that and then fill out the form. I should be in touch usually by the same day.
Awesome. Charlotte, again, really appreciate you, and you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience, and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.